With Mortal Kombat 1 seemingly being pulled out of the spotlight by its malevolent leaders, I think it's the best time to discuss some things we want in Mortal Kombat 13, so that way we can avoid the mistakes that we've been seeing with 1. I'm not going to bore you with the super long intro this time. It's designed to jump right in and be a little less scripted. That being said, if you do like what you see here, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you haven't. And without further delay, here are 6 wants and also what we don't want for Mortal Kombat 13. First off, I'd like to start with saying that we should be seeing more of the other realms of the Mortal Kombat universe. So far from the rebooted timeline, the Edenians have been delegated to the rulers of Outworld. So who's ruling Edenia? Is anyone even there? Does it even exist anymore? And we get the same thing with characters like Havik, where now instead of being from the Chaos Realm, they are now from the Order Realm. So is there anyone in the Chaos Realm? Will they establish the Chaos Realm going forward with the character of Havik? I think that would be something interesting to explore. The first thing that we don't want is a reset of the timeline a 4th time. So far, we've had a reboot of the timeline in Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat 11, and Mortal Kombat 1. That's not including the Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe timeline that is kind of outside of the realm of our current continuity. At this point, it's getting kind of old. I'd like to stay in the same timeline for at least a couple of games at this point. If you look at the original timeline, 8 games or at least 7 games were from the same timeline. So let's try and keep that trend going forward. I'd like them to bring back Conquest mode. Everyone I've talked to about the 3D era of Mortal Kombat loves this mode. This is one of the highlights of both Mortal Kombat Deception as well as Mortal Kombat Annihilation. They started making the story mode to go with the game, so Conquest fell to the wayside a little bit. But I think it'd be super cool if they made Conquest the parallel storyline that leads to whatever DLC they'll be implementing. Imagine with Mortal Kombat 11, for example, where in the road to Aftermath, there was a conquest that you would follow that would lead you to that point. It would also be cool that maybe the conquest is from the point of view of the villain of the story, where you play as the villain going forward, and it kind of meets in the middle where each one is the final boss of their own respective pieces of that whole storyline. I do not want them to bring back invasions. I understand what they were trying to do, but I feel like the Crypt and other past modes were way more effective in doing what Invasions was doing. I played the first and the second season of Invasions, and very quickly it got boring to the point that I didn't want to continue playing. And I understand that it's a fighting game, but I think in today's world, you need some variation in what you're doing. If you're just moving around to another fight, while that is cool, it needs something to differentiate itself from the normal towers that we were seeing in the base game. Bouncing off that last point, please bring back the Crypt. I liked unlocking all the little extra things like concept art, alternate costumes, videos, behind the scenes. You know, if you're pressed to time, maybe you can combine the Crypt and Conquest mode in some way so that they're both represented. I think Mortal Kombat 11 did the Crypt very, very well, where it was not only a place where you could go unlock collectibles, you could also travel through this little adventure with the character who I believe is known as Apep's descendant or something like that. I would definitely hope that the Crypt would come back in Mortal Kombat 13. Alright, I'd really rather they not keep using Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Shao Kahn as villains. They have been the main or the secondary villains for the last 30 years. There are few games where the main bad guy or even the secondary bad guy is not one of those 3 people. It's time for some other villains to take the reins of the story. So I was thinking maybe bring back someone like Onaga, which was already teased in Mortal Kombat 1 before they decided to blow their multiversal load everywhere. Kronika was a step in the wrong direction. She was a little too plain, but I think having a villain that has already been established, but kind of reintroducing them and rebooting them to a certain way would work wonders for the story of Mortal Kombat 13. The next point I'd like to bring up is please bring back more of the 3D era Mortal Kombat characters. So far in Mortal Kombat 1, they've already brought back characters like Li Mei, Havoc, Ashura, and I would really like if they could maybe even expand on these characters, specifically Ashura, maybe even Havoc if they do decide to go with the Order Realm conflict and maybe introduce the Chaos Realm at some point. But I think they should also bring back characters like Shujinko, Hotaru, Dairu, Draman, Moloch. I would very much like for Shujinko to be a character again, but made his own character. Maybe with an unsaid darkness like they hint in Kung Lao's ending in Mortal Kombat 1. It would kind of be like Kid Omni-Man in Invincible, where he kind of switches to his quote-unquote kill mode. I also think just bringing out new spins on these 3D era characters could really give them some more fans and bring some much needed love to the characters that already have fans that have just been kind of hung to dry. That being said though, I think you should not bring back cameos. Now this is with a caveat though. When I say don't bring them back, I don't necessarily mean don't bring them back at all. I do mean, however, do not bring them back in the way that they were implemented in MK1. I think it would be better to have a designated system to how they work and make it so the desired move is already ready at the push of a button. The way they kind of had it... Oh, here's the thing, right? I have not played Mortal Kombat 1 since 2 months since its release. So maybe they have updated it and gotten it a little bit better, but I think it needs a complete overhaul. If they're going to continue with the cameo system, I would rather it be closer to Marvel vs. Capcom or something like that, because I think it's done better there. Please bring back gimmick modes. Now, as we've gotten further in the Mortal Kombat video game timeline, we have seen the loss of these gimmick modes that I personally really like to break up the flow of that combat. I'm talking things like puzzle combat, motor combat, even challenge towers for the most part. As we've gotten more serious in the games, more story driven, more realistic, a lot of those other alternate game modes have started to go to the wayside. I don't think there would ever be a universe where Mortal Kombat 11 has motor combat. And now, I'm not saying to come back and reintroduce all these same ones that were already created, but I think it would be an interesting idea to see what they might come up with. I loved chess combat for Mortal Kombat Deception, and I would love for them to bring it back. And I think it could actually work specifically because you're using a lot of the models that you would use in game anyway, so it's not like you have to create complete new models like something like Mortar Kombat or even Puzzle Combat. Do not give us some big multiversal, godly-like fight like we've had in the past couple of games. Instead, I'd love to make this game more personal to the characters that are playing. We've already had Mortal Kombat 1, where the bad guy is a Titan Shang Tsung from an alternate universe. Mortal Kombat 11, where it's a Titan who is controlling time. Mortal Kombat 10, which is a fallen Elder God. And Mortal Kombat 9 is Shao Kahn, but you know, they've already used him for 90% of the games that we've seen so far. But I would like the conflict to be a lot more personal. Chaos Reigns, I think, had the perfect opportunity to do so, and they completely ruined the execution of what could have been, right? I think if they focus on the Order Realm Civil War with, Havoc's side as well as Hotaru's side, it not only solves the personalization of the story, the use of the 3D characters, as well as even implementing the realms that we know that are there but have not seen currently. Last thing I'd like to see be implemented into Mortal Kombat 13 is for them to bring back style switching. The 3D era made a name for itself by giving each of its fighters at least 2 combat styles, which had different attacks and could branch into each other. Now, that is to say, Mortal Kombat X did have something similar with variations, but you'd have to choose it at the beginning of the battle, and you couldn't switch halfway through, and you wouldn't be able to use all the special moves, so they were also kind of blocked off and everything. I think having style switching in actual combat would be something that could not only change up the gameplay, but keep it fun because you're always on your toes with what the other opponent could be doing. Please do not make a paid DLC expansion that doesn't have anything substantial to add to the game. Chaos Reigns has almost nothing of substance that was added to the game. Now, unlike Aftermath, the story for Chaos Reigns was ridiculously short and suffered even more than the past games in terms of which characters had the power to take out other characters. That's a huge thing that I've been talking about for a long time with friends. I've even mentioned it in the Havoc video that I created, but it makes no sense that certain characters are able to take out other characters. I need them to figure that out because what they're doing right now, it's not working. So the main point of this is, unless there's a substantial story and a couple of good, decent characters, then I wouldn't even attempt to do this again. I'm sure the number of people who bought Chaos Reigns was pretty low compared to something like Aftermath, and if they continue that same trend going forward with something like Mortal Kombat 13, there's no way that they're going to make their money back that they could just be spending on other quality of life changes. Alright, so that's the end of the video, everybody. Now, I'd definitely like to hear what your thoughts are in the comments below. Do you think they should bring back a lot of the stuff that I've talked about? What's some other stuff from the most recent Mortal Kombat games that you absolutely hate? I kind of hate the idea of them going more and more realistic. I'm very much a stylization over realism, because once everything looks realistic, you can't really differentiate it from each other. Now, you do got the fashion and stuff, and you got the different types of what they implement into the world, but that's just my opinion. So while I talked about all these other things, and that does bother me, it's not something that I would necessarily mind in Mortal Kombat 13. So maybe you have something similar. Maybe you agree with everything that I've said, and you just want to be like, hey man, thumbs up, or whatever. I definitely would like to hear from you. Again, I posed this in the Havoc video, I think, but what was your favorite Mortal Kombat games? I feel like they've used a lot of the arcade games for the most recent, activity that's been going on in the most recent games. So I definitely would like them to pull from the other sources that they have for Mortal Kombat. I'm tired of seeing the same things over and over again. So if you agree with me, let me know. If you don't agree with me, still let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, if you're not toasted with toasted mushroom, you're just bae.